What if I told you that after spending more than 70 years and trillions of dollars on cancer research, the 5-year survival rates haven't really improved? Shocking, right? We live in an age of advanced medicine, high-tech scans, and billion-dollar treatments, yet the grim truth is that conventional cancer therapy hasn't solved the core problem. That raises a disturbing question. Have we been fighting cancer the wrong way all along? You see, the traditional model teaches us that cancer is all about genetic mutations. But what if that story is incomplete? What if cancer begins not with DNA damage, but with something far more fundamental damage to your mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside your cells? If that's true, then our entire strategy for preventing and even surviving cancer needs a radical shift. Welcome to the Nutrition Institute, where today we'll dive into 30 scientifically proven tips that could help you prevent cancer by protecting your mitochondria, strengthening your immune system, and transforming the way you think about health. Stick around until the end, because some of these tips might surprise you and could very well change the way you live from this day forward. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button to support our channel so we can continue bringing you more life-changing insights. Imagine this for a moment. After more than 7 decades of research, with trillions of dollars spent, with the brightest minds and the most advanced technologies at work, our progress against cancer hasn't been as groundbreaking as we expected. The 5-year survival rates in many cancers have barely moved. That's not only surprising, it's alarming. We live in a time where medical technology has conquered so many frontiers, from organ transplants to artificial intelligence, and yet, with cancer the disease that terrifies us the most, we're still hitting the same walls. When I first heard this, I couldn't believe it. Surely, with all the billions poured into research, the statistics should look much better, but the numbers don't lie, and they force us to confront an uncomfortable question. Could it be that the way we've been fighting cancer all along is flawed? The conventional medical model has taught us to see cancer as a matter of genetic mutations. In simple terms, your DNA, the blueprint of life, suffers random errors. Those errors accumulate, and some of those damaged cells turn into cancer. From this perspective, the logical solution has always been destroy those cells, cut them out with surgery, burn them with radiation, poison them with chemotherapy. For decades, this has been the main playbook, but let's pause here. If this approach were truly complete, if this was the entire story, why hasn't it delivered the results we were promised? Why do so many people still face cancer as a death sentence, despite going through the most aggressive treatments available? Here's where things get truly intriguing and unsettling. There's another perspective, one that flips the script completely. It's called the metabolic viewpoint of cancer. Instead of starting with damaged DNA, this model says the real beginning lies in your mitochondria, the tiny organelles inside every cell that act like microscopic power plants. They generate the energy that keeps you alive. Now imagine this. What if those mitochondria break down? What if they can't use oxygen properly to create energy anymore? The cell has 2 choices: die or find another way to survive. And so it activates plan B fermentation. Instead of using oxygen, it starts burning sugar at an insane rate just to stay alive. That desperate adaptation is what we end up calling a cancer cell. To me, this explanation feels both chilling and strangely logical. It makes sense of things that the traditional model struggles with. For example, why do PET scans, the very tool doctors use to detect cancer, work by tracking areas of the body that consume excessive amounts of glucose? Because cancer cells are sugar junkies. They light up the scan like neon signs, sucking in glucose like vacuum cleaners. Think about that for a moment. If cancer cells thrive on sugar because their mitochondria are damaged, then maybe the real battle isn't about mutating genes. It's about protecting and healing our mitochondria. That single shift in perspective changes everything. And it also makes sense of why certain lifestyle factors are such strong triggers for cancer. Smoking isn't just about carcinogens hitting your DNA. It's about years of toxic smoke, suffocating your cells, starving their mitochondria of oxygen, until one day the damage becomes irreversible. Or take vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D isn't just about bone health. It's a master regulator of your immune system. When your levels drop too low, your defenses collapse, and suddenly cancer finds the perfect chance to grow. It's sobering to think about it this way, because it moves cancer out of the realm of bad luck and into the realm of cause and effect. It's not just about a genetic lottery. It's about how we live, what we eat, what toxins we're exposed to, and how well our body can defend itself. When I reflect on this, I can't help but feel a mix of fear and empowerment. Fear because it means so much of our modern lifestyle, our sugar, loaded diets, our constant snacking, our exposure to radiation and environmental toxins could be silently damaging our mitochondria every day. But empowerment, because if the root cause is metabolic, then we actually have tools to intervene. We can protect those mitochondria. We can strengthen our immune systems. We can make choices that dramatically reduce our risk. This is why the video I watched struck such a deep chord with me. It didn't just list 30 tips in a vacuum. It built the case that unless we understand cancer at its foundation, none of the tips matter. If you think it's purely about DNA mutations, then all you can do is wait for the mutation to happen and hope science finds a way to kill it. But if you see it as a mitochondrial problem, then suddenly prevention becomes possible. Suddenly, what you eat today, how often you fast, how you move your body, even how you breathe, these become weapons in your fight against cancer. I remember sitting back after watching, and the first thought that came to my mind was, have we been looking at cancer through the wrong lens all this time? If so, it would explain why the results haven't changed, despite all the money and effort. It would explain why alternative approaches that focus on metabolism like fasting, ketogenic diets, or certain natural compounds show promise even though they don't get much funding. This isn't to say that conventional treatments don't have their place. Surgery, chemo, radiation, they save lives every day. But what if they're not enough? Because they're treating the symptom, not the cause. What if, by ignoring the health of our mitochondria, we've been missing the forest for the trees? To me, that's the radical shift this perspective demands. It's not about abandoning everything we know, but about adding a new layer of understanding. It's about asking, instead of only fighting cancer after it's here, how can we create an environment where cancer struggles to even begin? That's why the next step, learning how to protect and empower your mitochondria, is so crucial, because once you grasp that cancer cells are just desperate survivors clinging to plan B, you start to realize the real battle isn't just about destroying them. It's about never giving them the conditions to appear in the first place. When I first heard about the idea that cancer might actually be a disease of the mitochondria and not just random genetic mutations, I was skeptical. After all, everything we're taught, everything doctors repeat over and over, is that cancer comes from damaged DNA. But then I saw an image that completely shifted my thinking, a PET scan. If you've ever seen one, you know how it works. Doctors inject a tiny amount of radioactive sugar into the body. Then they look for the spots that light up. Why? Because cancer cells devour sugar like starving animals. They don't need oxygen the way normal cells do. Instead, they ferment glucose at insane levels just to stay alive. That's why the scan lights up exactly where the tumors are. That single fact hit me hard. If cancer cells are literally addicted to sugar, then maybe the real story isn't about DNA mutations at all. Maybe it's about broken energy systems, about mitochondria, so damaged they've had no choice but to switch to this backup, sugar, burning survival plan. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Picture your body as a massive city with every cell being a home. Inside each home is a power plant, the mitochondria responsible for keeping the lights on. Now imagine what happens when those power plants break down. Some homes go dark completely. Others scramble to survive by setting up a noisy, dirty generator outside. That generator runs on cheap fuel, pollutes the neighborhood, and is unstable, but it keeps the house alive, at least for now. That's cancer, a desperate cell running on fermentation, a process designed for survival, not for long-term health. Once I understood this metaphor, I started to see my daily habits differently. Smoking isn't just about filling your lungs with carcinogens. It's about suffocating those cellular power plants until they collapse. A vitamin D deficiency isn't just a minor blood test number. It's like cutting off the police force that patrols the city, leaving neighborhoods vulnerable to chaos. Even chronic stress, poor sleep, or too much sugar, these aren't random lifestyle issues. They're fuel for mitochondrial dysfunction. What's powerful about this new perspective is how it reframes cancer from something random and uncontrollable into something deeply connected to how we live. If DNA mutations were the whole story, then cancer would feel like pure bad luck. But if mitochondria are the key, then suddenly the choices we make every single day matter in profound ways. Let me share a story that stuck with me. Imagine a long-term smoker who, after years of filling his lungs with smoke, gets pneumonia. The virus acts like the final spark on dry wood, igniting lung cancer. Or take another case, someone with chronically low vitamin D levels, barely any sun exposure, diet lacking in nutrients. Over time, that deficiency weakens their immune system so much that colon cancer takes hold. In both examples, it isn't just random bad genes. It's the collapse of natural defenses, the breakdown of mitochondria, the loss of resilience. That makes me think about cancer less as an enemy and more as a signal, a desperate signal from our cells that something fundamental has gone wrong. And instead of only attacking the signal with drugs, maybe we need to ask what pushed these cells into desperation in the first place. Of course, this doesn't mean chemotherapy, surgery, or radiation don't matter. They save lives every single day, but they're often fighting the fire without addressing what lit the match. If the root is mitochondrial breakdown, then treatments that destroy both cancer cells and healthy cells can't be the full solution. We need to also rebuild, restore, and protect the very systems that keep us alive. I found myself reflecting on how often prevention gets ignored in our healthcare system. Prevention doesn't bring in billions. No pharmaceutical company profits if you decide to take daily walks, fast occasionally, or cut sugar from your diet. But these small, daily acts might be the very shield that protects your mitochondria from collapsing. For me personally, this new way of seeing cancer makes me re-evaluate even simple choices. Do I really need that extra sugary snack in the afternoon, knowing how cancer cells thrive on glucose? Should I spend more time in the sun, not just for mood, but to keep my vitamin D at levels that protect my immune system? Can I embrace practices like intermittent fasting, not as some trendy diet, but as a way to recycle and renew my cells? This perspective also challenges me to rethink what health really means. Health isn't just not being sick. It's not about waiting until symptoms force us into the hospital. It's about building cellular strength so diseases like cancer never get the chance to take root. The more I dive into this, the more I realize why so many promising alternative ideas get dismissed. If they don't fit into the genetic mutation model, they're often ignored Yet, they may hold the very keys we've been missing. It's a sobering thought. Could decades of research have been chasing the wrong target, while the real answer has been inside our cells the whole time? To me, that's the haunting mystery and the hopeful opportunity of this metabolic viewpoint. Cancer doesn't have to feel like a random curse. It can be understood, anticipated, and even prevented if we care for the tiny power plants inside our cells. And that's why, before we even get into the list of 30 scientifically proven tips, it's so important to ground ourselves in this story, because once you understand the foundation, the tips don't feel like scattered health hacks. They feel like part of a clear, logical system, a system that says, protect your mitochondria, and you stand a fighting chance at never facing cancer in the first place. By now, if you follow the story, you understand the foundation. Cancer may not simply be about random genetic errors, but about broken mitochondria, your body's tiny power plants, struggling to survive by feeding on sugar. That idea changes everything. It shifts the question from how do we kill cancer to how do we protect the very systems that keep cancer from starting in the first place? And this is where the 30 practical, scientifically backed tips come in. When I first heard the list, I was amazed by how many of them are simple, everyday choices. They're not exotic or impossible. They're things almost anyone can do if they choose to. Strengthening the immune system. The first group of strategies is about empowering your immune system, the built-in army designed to identify and destroy rogue cells before they ever become tumors. Vitamin D, for instance, isn't just about bones. It's a master switch for immunity. Keeping your levels in a healthy range means your body has the soldiers it needs to fight off the early sparks of cancer. Other allies include selenium and magnesium, minerals we often overlook. Selenium helps neutralize harmful compounds inside the body, while magnesium is essential for energy production. Without it, your mitochondria literally can't function. Then there are natural boosters like colostrum, the nutrient-rich first milk produced after birth, and beta-glucans from mushrooms, both supercharged natural killer cells. Those specialized immune warriors that hunt down viruses and cancer cells. And let's not forget plant power, pomegranates, green tea, chamomile, and black seed oil. Each of these contains compounds that reduce inflammation, protect mitochondria, or even slow the spread of cancer cells. It's incredible to think that something as simple as sipping tea or eating fruit could influence your body's defenses so deeply. Nurturing the mitochondria. The second group focuses directly on keeping mitochondria strong and resilient. Intermittent fasting is one of the most powerful tools here. By giving your body regular breaks from food, you activate autophagy, a cleanup process where old, damaged cells and mitochondria are recycled into fresh, healthy ones. It's like spring cleaning at the cellular level. Prolonged fasting takes this even further. While it's not easy, even occasional extended fasts can trigger profound renewal in the body. Add to this the ketogenic diet, which shifts your metabolism from burning sugar to burning fat and ketones, an energy source mitochondria love. Exercise, of course, plays a starring role. From daily walks to high-intensity interval training, movement floods your body with oxygen and forces your mitochondria to adapt and grow stronger. Even hypoxia training, briefly restricting oxygen, can stimulate resilience and improve oxygen carrying capacity. Then there's cold therapy, which shocks your system into producing more mitochondria. Stepping into an ice bath or cold shower may sound extreme, but the benefits to cellular health are real. And sometimes healing comes not from intensity, but from peace. Forest breathing, simply walking among trees, reduces stress, increases oxygen intake, and even boosts immune function. I love how something so ancient and simple can be one of the most powerful medicines for modern life. Reducing toxic burdens. The third group of strategies is about clearing away the invisible threats that slowly erode our cellular health. Radiation exposure, for example, is everywhere from dental X rays to CT scans. While sometimes necessary, repeated exposure damages DNA and mitochondria. Learning to limit unnecessary scans and always asking for protective shielding is a small but meaningful step. Then there are toxins we invite in without realizing it. Unfiltered water filled with chemicals, constant exposure to electromagnetic fields from Wi-Fi routers and cell phones, even excess iron from supplements or cookware, which fuels inflammation and cancer growth. Each of these stresses the body in ways we don't see until it's too late. And of course, one of the biggest culprits of all, sugar. Refined sugar and starches don't just feed our cravings. They feed cancer cells directly. Every bite of processed sweets is like pouring fuel on the fire for damaged mitochondria trying to survive through fermentation. Cutting sugar may be the single most powerful step you can take to reduce cancer risk. Everyday applications. What struck me most about this list of 30 strategies is how doable they are when broken down into everyday actions. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You could start by making sure your vitamin D levels are healthy, swapping soda for green tea, and taking a brisk walk each morning. Then maybe you try intermittent fasting, skipping snacks, and giving your body longer breaks between meals. Or perhaps you plant broccoli sprouts in your kitchen and use them to top your meals, adding sulforaphane, a powerful cancer-fighting compound. These are small steps, but together, they form a lifestyle that supports mitochondria, strengthens immunity, and removes toxins all at once. It's like building layers of armor around your body's defenses, a bigger picture. To me, the real lesson isn't just about the 30 tips themselves. It's about the philosophy they represent, prevention through empowerment, instead of waiting for disease to strike and then attacking it with aggressive treatments. This approach asks us to cultivate resilience every single day. It's not about fear, it's about agency. We don't have to see cancer as an unpredictable monster lurking in the shadows. We can see it as a condition influenced by choices, by environment, by the health of our tiniest organelles. And when you think about it that way, prevention doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like freedom. I find that perspective incredibly hopeful because while genetics may feel like destiny, lifestyle feels like possibility. These 30 tips don't guarantee a life without cancer, but they tilt the odds in your favor in the most powerful way available by making your cells stronger, your immune system sharper, and your body less inviting to disease. Closing reflection. After hearing this list, I couldn't help but re-evaluate my own habits. Do I snack too often? Do I rely on sugar more than I should? Do I spend enough time outside, moving my body and soaking in the sun? The answers weren't always what I wanted them to be. But instead of guilt, I felt gratitude because now I know, now I can change. And that, I think, is the biggest gift of this approach. Knowledge isn't meant to scare us. It's meant to empower us. When you understand cancer as a disease of mitochondria, every healthy choice stops feeling small. Every glass of water, every fasted hour, every step in the forest, it all becomes part of a powerful defense system working quietly inside you. Cancer doesn't have to feel inevitable. It doesn't have to feel like fate. It can be something we actively resist, one decision, one meal, one breath at a time. When I step back and think about everything we've just explored, one truth stands out. Cancer is not only about chance or genetics. It is also about how we live, how we nourish ourselves, and how we protect the invisible systems inside us. That realization is both unsettling and liberating. For decades, the dominant narrative has been that cancer is essentially bad luck, a random series of mutations written into our DNA, but the metabolic perspective offers something radically different. It tells us that cancer begins when our mitochondria, the power plants of our cells, break down, and when those power plants fail, the cells don't just give up, they adapt in dangerous ways. They survive by fermenting sugar, and over time, those survival tactics grow into tumors. Why does this matter so much? Because it means prevention isn't only possible, it's within reach. We're not powerless. We don't have to wait passively for disease to strike. We can take action every single day to strengthen our mitochondria and our immune system. For me, the biggest lesson is that small choices matter more than we realize. Skipping snacks and letting my body rest between meals doesn't just help with weight management. It helps recycle old, damaged cells. Spending time outside in the sun doesn't just lift my mood, it raises my vitamin D and fortifies my immune defenses. Choosing green tea instead of soda doesn't just cut sugar, it floods my cells with protective compounds. The beauty of this perspective is that it transforms ordinary habits into powerful acts of self-defense. It reframes prevention as a daily practice of care. And while no lifestyle promise absolute protection, I find comfort in knowing that every healthy step tilts the odds in my favor. My personal takeaway is simple. Health is not a one-time fix. It is not something you can buy in a pill bottle or schedule in a doctor's office. It's a relationship with your body, built moment by moment through the food you eat, the rest you allow, the environment you choose, and the resilience you cultivate. And perhaps the most powerful part, these practices don't just lower cancer risk, they improve life itself. More energy, better sleep, sharper focus, deeper calm. When we care for our mitochondria, we don't just prevent disease, we unlock vitality. So, here's my question for you. Which small change are you most inspired to make in your own life-cutting sugar? Moving more, spending time in the sun, or something else? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And your answer might inspire someone else too. And if you found this reflection valuable, don't forget to subscribe to the Nutrition Institute. Your support gives us the motivation to keep creating content that empowers you with knowledge and tools for a healthier, longer life. Together, we can spread hope, not fear,